Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, Hacking Payment Services, Real-World Business Logic Attack Scenarios. I'm Kainaz Badia and I'll be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which the last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. Now about our speaker, Heba Farahat. Heba works as a senior cybersecurity consultant, empowering, supporting, and consulting for the largest companies in the Middle East across various sectors, including banking, telecom, insurance, tourism, and fintech. She holds many advanced certifications, including CISSP, CRTE, CRTP, OSCP, eWPT, and CEH. Besides her work, Heba is actively involved in mentorship program where she delivers talks and training to diverse audiences at local, regional, and international conferences, as well as in schools, universities, and corporations to spread knowledge and awareness about cybersecurity. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over the session to you, Heba.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It has been a pleasure to be invited by EC Council in Cyber Talk series to talk about my presentation, Hacking Payment Services. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation today. So today I'm going to uncover real-world business logic vulnerabilities that I had discovered throughout my work as a cybersecurity consultant. So without further ado, let's get ahead and get started to our today's conversation. So about me, she already gave a quick introduction about me, so no need to keep talking about that. Let's go ahead and start talking about our topic today. So let's talk about digital transformation. There's no doubt how digital transformation has transformed our life. It has made our life easier. We are now more connected more than ever before. It has really radically changed our life. On the other hand, it's one of the most targeted sectors by the attackers. As a result of that, the cost of data breach has reached one of its highest value, reaching $6 million as per IBM cost of data breach report for 2024. Okay, let's talk about the key workflow in payment application. So the workflow may be different from one application to another, but let's now talk about a common workflow across most of the applications that we see nowadays. So the first stage is always about customer registration and authentication. And the second stage, AI-based eKYC verification. And the third stage, which is after the user already is logged in and onboarded, the user gets to enjoy the modern payment services, which is like money transfer and getting a new credit card and things like that, just like we are going to see in our presentation today. So the real world that I'm going to uncover today, it has discovered in the financial sector in the area of Asia Pacific region. All right, so we are going to go through every stage of the payment workflow and then attack it using business logic, attack vulnerabilities. So at the first stage, which is the customer registration and authentication, we're gonna perform account takeover, and this is gonna be like the foothold or just the warm-up, and then we are going to escalate our attacks more and get into even more exciting attacks, which is the second stage, where we're gonna perform a fraudulent eKYC process, and then moving forward, which is even more interesting, where we're gonna hack the modern payment services. We are gonna get paid banking services for free and perform fraudulent money transfers and break the buy now, pay later limits. Okay, I have been saying business logic vulnerabilities a lot since we started, so let's pause here and talk about what does business logic vulnerabilities actually mean. So business logic vulnerabilities, they are flaws in the design and the implementation of an application, which allows an attacker to abuse illegitimate functionalities to perform malicious and unintended actions. So we always know about Alice and Bob, and they have been friends for a decade. But today we are going to use them in our attack scenarios, and they are not friends anymore. They have turned against each other, which is a reminder to trust your friend, but not their devil. Let's go and start by attacking the first step in our payment workflow. So the first step, as we have mentioned earlier, is the customer registration and authentication flow. So at first, let's talk about the normal flow. How does it work? And then let's break that. So the first stage here, we are having Alice. So Alice is want to take over Bob's account. So let's see what's going to happen. So the first stage usually is that the user enters the mobile number and requests an OTP. The backend server sends the OTP and the customer mobile number to the SMS gateway provider, which is going to deliver the OTP value to the customer. And the customer is going to enter that OTP value. The backend server is going to do some verification, is that OTP correct or not, and then it's gonna return successful registration or account recovery. It depends if the user is registering or just performing a forget password. So the step we are going to attack here is the first step, which is when the user enters the mobile number and requests an OTP. So let's go ahead and intercept that request and see its parameters. So when we intercepted the request, we saw the below request. We saw a method name that is named OTP Gen Mobile version 2 and some other parameters being passed to that method. As you see in the second line, we have method parameter, and there are so many parameters that getting passed to that method. We see type, we see SMS channel, alongside with so many parameters. And here we can see the response is that the SMS successfully being sent. So what I thought about in this step, so the method name is called OTP Gen Mobile version 2. Okay, so this is supposed to be the most secure version. Okay, what about version 1? What happened to it? So this is what actually I have tried to do. I've tried to modify the version number to version 1 and then just nothing happened. So I removed version 1 and I was able to recall the old method. But the old method needs more parameters than the previous method. So I had to build my request correctly. So there was a new parameter that is being injected. As you see highlighted here, the OTP parameter. This is an injected parameter. And then by analysis, I have observed the below response. So we're going to attempt to get account takeover using two methods. So the first method, I'm going to attack the OTP parameter, as you see here, as an empty parameter. Okay, so what happens here is that the server is going to return the OTP value in its response. So in this case, we just undermine the security of the application. The OTP is already delivered to the victim, to the attacker, so it is just becoming useless. It's no longer a second factor of authentication. So this is the first method, forcing the server to leak the OTP value in its response. Okay, what about the second method? The second method is even more interesting. So here's the OTP parameter. We're going to inject a value in that parameter. As you see here, I have injected 112, 112, 112. And guess what? The server has accepted this value from the attacker and has even delivered it to the victim as if this is like the correct value. So again, here we are having an attacker controlling the value of the OTP, which is again undermines the concept and the security of the application and the second factor authentication. So now Alice knows the code and she is going to take over Bob's account. All right, let's go ahead and hack the second stage. So the second stage after login, we have AI-based eKYC verification. So as you all know that some countries already restrict users to perform any money transfers prior to performing KYC process. As a result, we have seen a rising number of companies who are working as eKYC providers. They are offering eKYC as a service. So basically, they identify data verification using AI methods, which is sound at first. This is modern and this is like faster and things like that. But let's go ahead and hack that. So let's go through the normal process and the steps of eKYC verification, and then let's see how we're going to hack it. So the normal process goes as follows. Step 1, document scanning and data exfiltration. Let's have a look at the image on the right. Here we are having a user that is scanning their password using their mobile device. So here we are having the document being scanned and the data is being exfiltrated or extracted from that document using the OCR technology, which is used to extract the necessary data. At the second stage, we see that the application verifies the customer biometrics. So what happens at this stage is that the customer takes a selfie for facial matching and liveness detection. And what happens here is that we have AI and the machine learning. They are used to perform a face matching between the selfie that we see the user have just taken and the picture on the passport. They see if that selfie is the same as the picture in the passport. So what I thought about here, so if the algorithm is going to take the image that is on the selfie and crop the face and compare it with the cropped image from the passport, and they just need to know that this one from the left is equal to the one of the right. So it just compares two things and makes sure they are equal. So I thought about what about tricking the application and upload a a monochromic image. A monochromic image is like an image that has a solid color, the same color. So I managed to, instead of the selfie, I made it scan a black image, and instead of scanning the passport again, it has a black image instead. So what happens at this stage is that the algorithm, when it crops that part from the selfie and then crops that part from the passport to make sure that they are the same, it's gonna be the same. But it's not the picture or not the actual one of Bob. This is the attacker doing it. So again, Alice has bypassed this step on behalf of Bob. All right, now let's move to the third stage in our payment workflow, where we are going to attack the modern payment services. Here it's getting even more interesting. So the first attack that we are going to talk about in this section is getting paid banking services for free. So as you see here on the right, Alice is broke, and unfortunately, she has lost her credit card. The fee for credit card replacement is $200, and she's broke. She doesn't afford that. However, she knows of a security vulnerability that allows her to request paid banking services, but for free. How is that going to happen? Let's see together. So on the left here, we see the bank application. So Alice logs into her account and selects the service that she wants to perform. So she wants to request a new credit card. So here, as we see, the details on the left, we see the customer name, we see the fee debit account, which is the fees are going to be deducted from which account and the date and details like that. All right, let's go ahead and intercept the request before it's being sent to the backend server. So the request, it looks something like that. Alice has a deeper look on the request and examines the request parameters. And she noticed something here that, as you see, none of the parameters has the fee value. Nothing of the parameters specify the fee value. But however, she noticed something else. As you can see, some of the parameters has a naming convention, some sort of a pattern that the developer is following, but not all the parameters. It's like most of the parameters having a pattern. So what she thought about, okay, if I'm going to follow the same parameter or the same naming convention like the developer, most probably if there is a parameter that is like used to specify the fee, it's gonna be one of three options. So she made her list of guest parameter names that most probably, if we are going to talk about fee, what will the parameter name look like? And she tried them against the application. And happily, one of them worked. And she could manipulate the value of the credit card fee in the backend server. So she controlled the value, and instead of paying $200, you just paid a zero. So Alice had just got her new credit card for free. All right. Let's go and do another attack. Again, Alice is broke. So it's time to hack real-time payments. So Alice is broke, but however, Bob is a good man after all. Despite everything that happened to him from Alice, he decided to give her some money. However, the money would not be deducted from Bob's account. So Bob is going to give Alice some money, but the money is not going to be deducted from Bob's account. How is that even going to happen? Let's see right now. We're going to exploit the mathematical logic of the send money feature. All right. So again, we have intercepted the request. 1 second, allow me to plug my charger. All right, let's continue. So let's intercept the normal request. As we see here, we can see two main parameters that is being sent in the request. It's a simple request, as you can see. We can see the amount and we can see the fee. Okay. So the mathematical equations for the transfers are as follows. The new sender balance is equals to the previous sender balance minus the principal amount that got transferred minus the transfer fee. Makes sense, right? And the recipient balance is equals to its previous balance and the money that got transferred to him. Okay, so let's do a quick balance check before we perform our attack. So Bob's balance is $10,000. On the other hand, the recipient balance, Alice, she has a zero. She is broke. Okay, so Bob is gonna send Alice $1,000, which is normally should have the fee of $100. But as we have just said before, the money would not be deducted from Bob's account. Okay, so in the left, we can see the normal scenario. Let's go through the normal scenario first, and then we're gonna do a different thing. So let's substitute in the equations that we have talked about earlier. So the new sender balance equals $10,000, which is the balance of Bob, the sender, minus 1,000, which is the money he's going to give to Alice, minus 100, the fees of the money transfer. So the new sender balance is going to be 1,000. Subtract that subtract from it the result of that, which is 1,100. And Alice is gonna have 0 plus 1,000, so Alice is gonna have 1,000 in her balance. This is the normal flow, and this is how it should have worked, but this is not how we're going to do it. Okay, so let's go into the right part of the image and let's see. So the new sender balance equals 10,000 minus 1,000 minus negative 1,000. So what happened here? Okay, so the vulnerability that I have discovered in the application is that if the amount to be transferred is 1,000, and if I added the fee as negative that amount, as you already know, negative, it's positive. So at this case, it's gonna be 0. Nothing will be detected from Bob's account. So let's go ahead and look at the equations once more. So we have the new balance, the new sender balance. We have the 10,000 minus 1,000 minus negative 1,000. So negative and negative is equals to positive. So negative 1,000 plus 1,000 is actually going to give us a 0. So the sender's balance is not going to be affected. Nothing is going to be subtracted from the sender's balance. And Alice is going to get the money anyway. So Alice has got the $1,000 in her account. Interesting attack. All right, let's go ahead and perform another attack. So now we're gonna break the buy now, pay later limits. So Bob needs to buy an item that is worth $1 million, but his maximum is just $2,000. So how is this going to happen? Okay, at first, let's talk about the normal flow, and then we're going to attack it. So the normal flow, it looks like something like we see now. So at first, the user enters the desired amount. So Bob still wants the $1,000, sorry, the $1 million, so he's going to enter it. But however, as we see here in the screen, they are saying that the minimum is $50 and the maximum is $2,000. Okay, the amount is sent to the bank for approval, and this is the buy now, pay later provider. They're performing some processing and provides a limit which the user can accept or decline. So it's already the maximum is 2,000. So they're going just to say, okay, you have requested 1 million, but the approved amount is just 2,000. Do you want that, or you just want to decline? So the bank is going to return the amount, the approved amount, and the user has the right to accept or reject. So assume the user has rejected, he has accepted. So the final approved amount is displayed to the user. Okay, the available balance for buy now, pay later is $2,000. Okay, this is the normal flow. All right. However, Bob is not happy about that. He still wants to get the 1 million. So how is going to do that? Let's see. So the request we are going to attack is a request number 4. When the bank returns the approved amount which Bob can accept or reject, all right? So this is the step we're going to attack, okay? Let's intercept that request, okay? So what I have noticed here is the desired amount is being sent once more to the backend server at this stage, okay? If you try to add the big numbers that you are willing to have, it's not going to work, okay? But what's going to work? If you added the negative value of the numbers that you are willing to have, it's going to work, okay? So Bob wants $1 million. If he added negative $1 million, it's going to work. How does that happen? Okay, so this is how the application works, okay? So let's look at the image at the left. What happens at that stage is that the server compares the approved amount. It is less than the maximum buy now, pay later. If it's a yes, then the application continues. If it's a no, then it's going to return an error. So at this stage, when the attacker has added the approved limit as negative the value that it wants, so negative 1 million, when the application performs its logic to compare, so negative 1 million is definitely less than 2,000. So the application is going to continue. It's not going to fire any errors. And moving forward, the developer has made a check that if it's a negative number, take the absolute value of that number. If it's not a negative number, then just continue the flow. So here, our number is negative. So it's going to take the absolute value of that number. So the negative that we have inserted before, it's going to be removed. So what's going to happen is that the amount we have entered, the negative value is removed from it, and it's going to be reflected as a positive number in the attacker's account. So as you can see here, the balance, the available balance for Bob is $1 million in positive, okay? So this was the attacks we were talking about today. We have like attacked every stage in the payment workflow. Now let's go ahead and talk about the mitigations for that. Okay, as you have noted throughout our scenarios that there was no like specific way that we were hacking the applications. Every application is working in a different way, and we had to understand its logic and how does it work, and then identify how can we exploit the specific behavior of that specific application. So having that said, there's no silver bullet solution that we can apply, and definitely like the application is going to be solid proof. It's going to be super secure. It's not actually like that. So there's no unique signature by which logic vulnerabilities in web applications can be identified. So there is no silver bullet that will protect you, okay? And sometimes you have to break an egg to make an omelet. So the only way of not introducing any security bugs is not to code at all. So we have to balance between that. So I have discovered, I have gone through WASP top 10 proactive controls, and I have picked like some controls that we can compile them together. It's gonna like reduce the probability that business logic attack vulnerabilities that can happen, okay? But as we mentioned, that there's no silver bullet solution that we can apply. Instead, we're gonna apply multiple controls, and that's fine, because if we want to be super secure, then we shouldn't like be operating as old, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about some controls from WASP top 10 proactive controls, okay? They have a very long list, but I have selected like some controls that I see they are more relevant to the business logic attack vulnerabilities. So the first one, as you see here, which is the control number 3 under WASP top 10 proactive controls, is that validate all inputs and handle exceptions by performing a client-side and server-side validation. So it's not enough that the applications are performing only the validation on the client side using like JavaScript or client-side code. It's not sufficient, because since it is on the client side, then it can be bypassed. So what is more sufficient is that to perform the validation on the server side, so that if you are having an attacker or malicious user, just like in our case, who is trying to abuse your application, then the server should be performing the proper server-side validation to stop any abuse from happening to the application itself. So this is number 1, and it is super important. Okay, number 2 is validate the sensibility of all input values before processing. Again, this is related to the validation. So if you see an input that is coming that is not sensible, it should not be accepted by the application. So if you remember in the first attack that we were talking about, already the application is using version 2. So what does it mean that the user is trying to recall version 1? Why it's even still there in the code? And all the negative values that we have been performing, why is that even accessible? It's not logical to have these numbers and negative in the first place. So make sure to validate the sensibility of all input values before processing them. The third one is whitelisting, which is developers need to make sure that they whitelist only the accepted input instead of depending on the blacklisting. Instead, it's whitelisting where you just whitelist the expected input for that input field. So this is the control number 3, which is validate our input and handle exceptions. Okay. So control number 4 is address security from the start. So here we are going to talk about 2 main things. The first one is use design principles that lead to secure architectures. We can use things like keep it simple and stupid, which is the KISS principle. The easier an application is, it is easier to understand it and know its components and make sure it is like interacting with the proper APIs. So back again to the first example that we have been talking about, if the application architecture has been simple, it would have been easier for the developers to understand, okay, we have this API that is calling an old code and we don't need that, so that should be like removed from the code itself. So the easier is an application to understand, the easier it is to map its components and know all the interactions and make sure that the application is already performing as expected. Okay. The second thing is identify and minimize your exposed component, the attack surface, because simply attackers cannot attack what's not here. The second thing is clearly articulate what is trusted to do what and ensures these relationships are informed. So map all possible application flow and again make sure that only the allowed business flows are being allowed during the application. Let's go ahead and jump through control number 9. Implement security logging and monitoring. Monitor for unusual patterns and behavior in transaction or user actions. And log the actions on the application level. Okay, so we have talked about so many controls for almost all attacks we have talked about, but there is one attack that was related to AI-based eKYC. For that, 2 more controls, I would love them to be introduced. The first one is that train the machine learning and AI models properly to flag suspicious actions or anomalous input effectively. And the second thing is use advanced liveness detection to verify real-time user presence and prevent fraud actions. This was a reference that I had used to prepare during my presentation. That was my presentation today. I hope you have enjoyed it. And I'm here for questions if you'd like to have any.
Thank you so much, Heba, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. We found the webinar very engaging and hope it was valuable for you as well.
Thank you. I enjoyed being with you.
Thank you so much. Before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council's CPENT certification. EC Council introduces you to AI-powered edition of the Certified Penetration Testing Professional. In CPENT AI, AI is now mapped to all pen testing phases. CPENT AI program is one of the world's most comprehensive guided penetration testing certifications. It delivers a complete hands-on pen testing methodology enhanced with AI techniques applied across all stages of the testing process. With CPENT AI, you gain more than just technical knowledge. You learn how to scope engagements, understand design, estimate effort, and present findings effectively. This enables you to grow as a leader in offensive security with a diverse and versatile skill set. The program combines guided instructions with hands-on practice, immersing you in real-world scenarios involving IoT system, segmented networks, and advanced defenses. Each challenge is aligned with real-world use cases and mapped to modern threats. CPENT AI also builds expertise and advanced skills needed to create your own tools, conduct binary explosion, perform double pivoting, customize script, and write exploits to reach the deepest layers of a network. What makes CPENT unique is, firstly, AI pen testing skilled mapped all pen testing phases. Secondly, master end-to-end pen testing methodology, scoping, rules of engagement, real requirement, reporting and all. Thirdly, live cyber range, CTF challenges, 110 plus hands-on labs. And lastly, level advanced pen testing skills. If you are an ethical hacker, penetration tester, forensic analyst, cyber threat analyst, network server administrator, red team engineer, SOC analyst, security administrator, this specialized program is designed to upskill you. The average annual salary of a pen tester in the United States is 1,21,175 US dollars. CPEN program is designed with the latest multidisciplinary course that is mapped to NICE framework. Exam is 100% practical and procured. If you want to know more about our CPEN AI program, kindly visit our link, which is given in the chat section. Also, if you're interested to know more, kindly take part in the poll that is going to be conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training and we'll reach out to you. Should we proceed with the question and answers?
Yeah, sure.
So the first question is, what should we custom from our smartphone settings to be more secure, especially if the phone is used by elderly?
So what should we custom from our smartphone settings to be more secure, especially if the phone is used by elderly? Actually, there are many things that need to be done. So I will briefly answer the question because it's not the direct scope of our webinar, but allow me to just give it a quick answer. So the first thing is make sure that the security updates are being installed on a regular basis. So the vendors already who are for example, if you have an Apple, Samsung, or Oppo phone, whatever the vendor is, they're already installing security updates on regular basis to make sure that it's already if it's any security vulnerability discovered in their software, it should be patched. So make sure that you install the vulnerabilities on regular basis. This is the first thing. The other thing is that not to download the applications from untrusted place. Make sure to only install the applications that is from official places. The third thing, which is the most important, and it is really hard if it's used by elders, but they will need your support in that, is that is user awareness. So they need to make sure that they not pass from links from unknown resources and all things related to the user awareness. This is the most hard part. I already face things like that with elder people, but really user awareness is one of the key things. They should not install applications from unknown resources. They cannot press on links from unknown resources, or things like that we see malicious that is happening on the internet. They should have the awareness not to go and proceed with that action. There are a lot that I need to say here, but the answer is going to be super long. So this is the brief answer, and maybe we can have a future webinar about that, about how to stay safe online. This is a very important topic.
That's correct.
How do you intercept the response? All web content these days is using SSL encryption. Okay, this is a very important question. So here what's happening is we are intercepting the connection using a proxy tool like a perp suite or anything. So we are intercepting the the connection before it's being sent in the TLS channel. So it's not like that we are intercepting the channel itself. Okay, so you cannot see the traffic that is from other users. You only see your own traffic. Okay, so can you see the difference? Here you're intercepting your own traffic when it is get transmitted to the server. You don't see the traffic of other users. Okay, and you can use tools for that, just like ForceTrigger. This is the most famous one. What if attacker have a special RAT tool to access mobile remotely, and how does customer proceed a safe transaction from a secure mobile? What if I have a special RAT tool? Okay, so here you have two questions. The first one, what if attacker have a special, like, I think you need root access to the mobile remotely. Okay, so this is like a different topic, like not related to that. But however, you know, just like we were talking before, so having the user awareness, that will help, yes, that your mobile not hacked in the first place. So this is one of the main things. Maybe we can have a separate webinar about that, because many people are asking about mobile security. So we can have a separate webinar about that. The other one, how does customer proceed a safe transaction from a secure mobile? I think you just made sure that you know, you are using applications from a trusted. For example, if you are a customer to a bank or using a money transfer application, you need to make sure that these entities has already performed the proper security controls before you go ahead and trust them with your money. I think this is the main thing. Aside from code injections, what other attack vectors are commonly used to target payment services? There are so many attack vectors that can target the payment services. You can see, okay, so the payment service, there are actually so many components that is part of the payment services, and each one of them is already has its own attack vectors and its own risk. So it's so many things that can happen to the payment services. Today we were talking about it from like the application level itself. What would you recommend as a bare minimum kind of assessment to identify vulnerabilities in the payment systems? So I would say two things that need to be done. So the first one is to integrate security from the early beginning. So when the vendor or a software house is planning to establish an application, they need to make sure that the security requirements are already embedded from day one. This is one thing. And the other thing, we have a secure SDLC process. Okay, so you need to have a secure SD process so that in every stage of the development, there's a security that's embedded. By this stage, by this way, at the stage when the application is already coming up and they are ready to perform penetration testing, the number of vulnerabilities that's going to be discovered is going to be really, really low. So having a security from the beginning and go through a secure SDLC process, this is like the most important thing to have, like the bare minimum of a secure applications. If we apply zero trust network on application, would they minimize the risk of hackers to access? Okay, so for example, the attacks that we are talking about today, this is actually not really related to zero trust. Okay, so here we're talking about an application level and an attacker that is abusing the logic of the application. Okay, so this is not actually related to your question. Your question is more about zero trust when it comes to network level. For example, if attacker had just gained access to your system or your network and they are in a certain VLAN, so you need to make sure that zero trust is implemented all across your network, so that if a user got access to a one VLAN, they cannot do lateral movement and move like to other VLANs and things like that. But in our case, in the attacks that we have discovered, zero trust would not have been an efficient mitigation. It's actually like a different scope. Most of the attacks involve API exploitation. What are the best practices for handling API security? That's a very important question. And what's top 10 for API security? They have 10 controls for answering that. So it's a little bit of comprehensive list. You can go through it and you can see the top 10 security things that you need to focus on when we are talking about API security. Good question. Are there any other questions?
Yes, too many questions are coming on your way. There are too many questions.
This was event. This is a repeated question we have answered before, so we can go ahead to the following question. Okay, what if there is an SSL encryption? Let's say the latest version of SSL and TLS. How our hackers are able to intercept the packages? Okay, so here he's talking about an application that is using HTTPS codes when it's communicating with the server. Okay, so in this case, if we are on a network where we are having multiple users are using that application that we are talking about. Assume it is the World Elite Bank application. So although we are together in the same network, if someone is intercepting the traffic, they won't be able to see the traffic of other users because they are using HTTPS, okay? So they cannot intercept the connection of other users. What about we were doing today? Today we were having the user intercepting their own connection. Okay, so they are not seeing the traffic of others, they're only seeing their own connection. Okay, hope that's clear. How does an attacker gain access into the network to stop data packets? That's a repeated question as well, we'll just answer it. Are there any other questions? Yes, how to approach a target for bug bounty like as a beginner because I'm getting exhausted of looking for many hours and not finding any. Okay, so here he's saying how to approach a target for bug bounty like as a beginner I'm getting exhausted after looking for many hours and not finding any. Okay, that's a good question. I know it's not directly related to the webinar, but let me give you a quick like highlight about that. So the mindset that we have for penetration testing is different than the one we are having for bug hunting, okay? So when we are doing a penetration testing, we are finding every vulnerability from the low to the critical one and make sure we like tested everything truthfully. But this is not the case when you are doing bug bounty testing. You need to have your own methodology to make sure you get the the things that are qualified to have a bounty or even a point for that. So for that, you can see there are many people who are bug hunters. They are sharing their mindset in like different videos and courses, and I would say you need to watch them and make sure eventually that you come up with your own mindset how you can approach bug bounty. For example, some bug hunters, they only focus on one program, and whenever there's a new target that is added, they make sure to go and get the low-hanging fruits and test it thoughtfully, and they just focus on one program. This is one school. Other school, you have attackers focus on one type of vulnerability and make sure they have all the findings and the payloads and the bypasses for that finding, and they try only that finding across so many programs. So you see different mindsets and different approaches adopted by bug hunters, and there are many others as well. And also the exploitation phase when you are doing bug hunting is a little bit different. So there are many resources talking about that because it's really a very long topic, but you need to watch them. Don't perform bug hunting with the same mindset of penetration testing. You're gonna go crazy and lose your mind and burn out. Don't do that. Okay. How can we identify a fake transfer transaction like Cardo app? Okay, he's saying how can we identify a fake transfer transaction like Cardo app? I'm not sure what this Cardo app is, but how can we identify a fake transfer transaction? It will be more from the provider side, the bank side, or the application you're working for. It is them that they are going to see the transfers and make sure that it's all legitimate. And you as user, you can like frequently check your balance and check the transaction logs and make sure that everything is there is actually what you have performed yourself, not like someone stole money from your account. Okay, that's a long question, so let's read it together. From a teamer's point of view, if I were analyzing a payment application with flawed business logic, like the ones shown where transaction fees are skipped or buy now pay later limits are altered, what are the key indicators in the request and the response flow or parameter structure that suggest it is possible to manipulate back-end logic without triggering security control, especially in applications using basic AI machine learning for anomaly detection? So here he's mainly asking about how can we detect the business logic vulnerabilities, for example, the attacks that we have been talking about. So honestly, the key for that, for me, is that I need to understand the business of the application. What does the application do? What is supposed to do? What is the flow that is happening? I understand everything about the application, and then I spend so many hours analyzing its behavior, and I do some iterations and see, okay, that's a new question, let's finish that one first, and see the behavior that is happening whenever I perform a change. that helps me to make sure that I like go through all the flow and the process and identify problems that can be there in the process. So for every vulnerability that we have been going through, maybe you would like to hear the recording of the session again, you'll see that I was always telling you the story behind what made me think about that. So having like a bank of ideas in your mind and also understanding the business flows and always reading about them, it will make you have like you know, as if a library of ideas of things you can try on when you are doing the penetration test yourself. This is, I think, how it works. How to test an application full vulnerability like? I think we have just answered that question, so it's repeated.
Thank you,
Any
Heba.
other questions?
Yes, we'll go with last 2 questions for the day.
Okay.
Here you go.
Can you recommend a suitable firewall for financial institution? I think you can always refer to Gartner and see like the top vendors and choose from them.
And we'll go with the last question for the day, Heba.
Okay. Where to find interesting community open source tools to learn ethical hacking? Okay, so ethical hacking, it's not actually about tools. It's more about you understand before you hack. You cannot hack what you don't understand. So to go through ethical hacking, you need first to understand and have like a solid foundation about computer science concept and principle, and then go ahead and learn about hacking. So if we are talking about web applications, so if we want to hack it, if we want to do web application penetration testing, we need to go one step back and learn about how does web applications work in the first place, and then attempt to hack it. And similarly, if we're going to do a network penetration testing or Active Directory penetration testing or any type of penetration testing, for each one of them, there are so many resources available. You can refer to them. If we are talking about a web penetration testing, there are courses that is uploaded in YouTube that are for free that you can study and practice on. I'm not sure if I can say vendor names in the session. Can I say vendor names?
No, it's
Okay, so on YouTube you can find plenty of resources.
okay. So, Heba, thank you very much. Thank you very much to our wonderful speaker, Heba, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and the knowledge that you shared with our global audiences. It was a pleasure to have you with us, Heba, and we're looking for more and more sessions with you. Before we
You're
conclude the
most
webinar,
welcome. Okay.
thank you so much.
I
Before
was
we
just saying, yeah, you're most welcome,
yes,
and it has been a pleasure to meet all the audience today. And thank you so much for inviting me.
we have a pleasure uh, for taking you as a speaker, and it was a pleasure having you with us. So before we conclude the webinar, would you like to give a message to our audiences?
Feel free to reach out throughout LinkedIn. I know you may have more questions, but we like ran out of time. Feel free to reach out through LinkedIn if you have any other questions. And I hope that you always do things responsibly and ethically. Don't hack what you don't have like authorization to perform like penetration testing on. Everything I have discussed today, I had the permission to perform a penetration testing on, and all vulnerabilities that I have talked about today, they are already mitigated. So I'm discussing things that is already like mitigated by the vendors. So that's it, and stay safe. And it has been a pleasure to see you all today.
Thank you so much, Heba.